AMD stock is up 20% in the last month. It's up 53% in the last 12 weeks, and it's setting up for a potential high value trade. So in this video, I'm going to share a price analysis for AMD stock, a potential rule on the weekly chart to get you in a few weeks, and also share some thoughts on some trade management if you're already in the stock entering at 130. Let's take a look. I'd like to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/DavidB for the 5 best stocks to buy now. Use my special link to get $200 off their epic annual subscription. Now, if you find value in my analysis of AMD stock today or other stocks on my channel, you may also find value in my email newsletter. If you subscribe, I'll share with you professional trading tips to help you make more profits trading stocks. I'll leave a link in the description below. Check it out. So AMD stock is looking bullish right now. You can see on screen I've got the weekly chart for the stock. And you can see in the last few weeks, it has broken a trend line, created that first peak after the trend line break. It's pulled back to test the selling pressure and now has risen further. In these 2 weeks here, it looks really bullish, with last week being a pullback. So this is now a good opportunity, if you're not in the stock, to take an entry once price takes out this level here. An entry at this point will give you a potential upside around about 30% to this price target here of 187. And of course, if the buyers stay in control, that price could keep trading up to this peak up here of 226. Now, before I go into further detail on that potential 147 entry in the next few weeks, I want to share some key price levels for this trending stock. So firstly, you've got this peak up here, which is the all-time high of 227. Underneath that level, we've got this peak created back in November 2021, and that's around 165. So let's mark that one up. AMD did fall into support at this point here in April 2024. And that's around $140. So I'm going to mark that one up as well. And underneath 140, there's also a peak here, which was created in June 2023. And that peak is around $132. And underneath that level, we've also got this trough here created in August 2024, which is 121. Underneath that level, we've got another level where price found support. That's around 93, corresponding to this trough here. And underneath 93, we can also mark up the most recent trough created in April this year, and that's around $76. And you can see I've already marked up this trough down here, which is around $54. So based on these key levels, we can see the price action for AMD has pulled back significantly since this price peak here in March 2024. So it was trending down for around about a year into this point here in April 2025. It trended down quite uniformly with some counter trends along the way as it got sold off. And it looks as if now this level of around about $75 is the final trough at the moment. Since that time, AMD is moving up. It has been trending up, creating higher highs and higher lows, signifying it is in a short-term uptrend. And more importantly, price action has broken through this confirmed downtrend line, confirming the trend is changing. And we can see by zooming in on the weekly chart for AMD, since this low, price has been moving up. You can see here the trend line was broken during the week commencing the 12th of May with a bullish green bar. And the week after that, there was some selling pressure with an inside bar, and price did close lower. But the buyers came back in, and then the next few weeks, price did move up consecutively, with the last 2 weeks here being quite bullish for AMD. And of course, last week there was a pullback. But we can see that although there was some selling pressure, the price opened around about the close for the week prior, and then it ended up closing at about 138. So this move down here is only about 50% of the move up. So I'm quite happy with that. That does signify strength. Yes, there was selling pressure, but not that much. And based on the way that this is unfolding, it does look as if next week is more likely to be another green bar, but it's unconfirmed yet. And something to consider is that obviously Trump signed the big, beautiful bill on Friday, and we don't know how the market's going to react to that bill. So it could swing either way, but just purely from an objective basis on this chart, I do think next week should be a green bar. But what do I know? So if you wanted to take an entry on AMD, you believe this stock is bullish and you think it's going to go higher, what sort of price could you enter at? What rules could you use? You can see on screen I've marked up with this orange line that peak of $147, which was created 2 weeks ago. So that's the current price peak following the trend line break after this initial peak here. Of course, you could have entered around about here at 130 based on Dow theory. Effectively, what you're saying is here, for that entry rule, price has moved up from here. It's broken the trend line to create this first peak. Sellers have had a go, they found support here, and then from this point it has moved up again. The price taking out this peak during this week here. It had to go here, but couldn't close above. It was only till this week here, the 16th of June, did price actually go above this peak and close the other side to confirm an entry the following week. So if you trade based on the weekly chart on Dow theory, then you could have taken an entry after confirmation that week, which means your entry would have been the week later on market open, around about $130. So perhaps you're in the trade already. And I'm going to cover some tips on trade management a bit later, so hold on for that. But if you're not in the trade already and you think about entering, effectively you'll be entering on that second peak. So price has moved up from here, created the first peak, we've had a test, it's moved back up, and now it's come up to here to create this second peak, and now it's pulled back. So what you can do now is use the same rule to enter in the next few weeks. So if next week price takes out this peak here of 147, you can enter on confirmation on the week after. So we need to see a weekly close either next week or the week after. So basically any week that shows us a green bullish bar that closes above here for the week would trigger an entry. So an entry above that price peak there would have you entering around about 147. And if you target this price level up here of 187, you've got around a 27% upside. And with a stop loss of 134, which is negative 8%, you've got an overall risk to reward of 3.2, which is acceptable. And if price trades up and breaks that key level there, there's a good chance that it could keep going, trade up all the way up to this level here of 227. So 55% upside to that target, which could unfold over the medium term. So a decent trade opportunity with this trending stock AMD based on some robust weekly rules. So that's a possible trade for the next few weeks. But what about if you're already in the trade and you entered around 130? What are your options now to manage the trade? So you can see effectively I've marked up the orange line there for that 130 trigger. And you can see since the trend line break, that was the first peak. Then there was this higher base before it moved higher. So this entry was the sort of first opportunity, whereas the 147 is the second opportunity. And some would argue the 147 is the safer entry because you've got basically two higher peaks and two higher troughs, two higher bases. Sellers have had a go on two occasions, and it looks as if at the moment there's selling pressure, but the buyers are in control, and we have got this short-term trend unfolding. So entry at 130 here with an initial stop loss of 115, which is negative 12, and targeting this key level up here of 186. So gives you a risk to reward of 3.5 for this trade, which you would have entered a few weeks ago. Now, based on last Thursday's close of 137, if you had entered at 130, your current position would be plus 5%. So it is an idea now to consider moving the stop loss up to perhaps break even. So what could you do? So you can see at the moment the close on Thursday was here at 137. Currently the stop is down here at around 115. So the distance between those two, if we just measure it, is approximately 17%. Now, how much can AMD move to the downside in 1 week? What's the average move? Well, let's look at some of these bars. So for example, let's look at this one here. How much did this one move in that week? So from the open to the close, 15%. What about this one back here? This is a bearish week. It moved open to the close, 17%. So based on that, most of the bars are a bit smaller than that, but based on 15 to 17%, let's say 20 to be conservative. That's the potential AMD can swing in a bearish week. Now, bearing in mind our stop at the moment is sitting 17% under last Thursday's close, I don't think it's a good idea to move that up just yet. Look, you could move it up, maybe 2 or 3% at a pinch, but I think based on, Trump's tariff news hitting the market next week and the recent volatility in the wider market, I'd be tempted to keep that stop loss where it is, just in case you get a wild swing next week. So it is up to you. You could move it up slightly, but I think overall, with the current volatility of AMD and the wider market, it might be a good idea to leave it where it is until AMD moves up in that second leg. Perhaps once we get a green bar up towards 154, towards 160 even, or perhaps in the next few weeks when we have perhaps another green bar up, maybe 2 green bars and 1 red bar, that next red bar will create that higher base, that higher trough to confirm where you can put your stop loss. So overall, AMD is looking bullish. It is looking like it wants to move higher. We did have a small pullback next week, but I believe that buyers are going to come back in soon and move this stock higher to that target of 164 and possibly further on to challenge this level of 186. Long term, even 227 over the medium term. Earnings is due in 30 days. So next 3 to 4 weeks are going to be interesting, whether we're going to see a surge before earnings as buyers believe that AMD will deliver results above expectations. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you bullish on AMD? Are you in the stock right now? Where did you enter? Keen to hear how the trade's going. Let me know. Thanks for watching.